So, it's pole position for Hamilton. Hi everybody, it's Spark here, and welcome to today's reaction video. I've just got off the back of watching the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix qualifying, and wow, what a session. It really was. It was a close one. There were a few surprises as well getting into Q3. Didn't know what on earth what was going to happen. Given how close the gaps were during that qualifying, if that's what it's going to be like for the rest of the season, we definitely have a lot to look forward to. If you've seen my previous video, you will know the drill by now. I'm going to reel off what's happened, what everything was team by team based on how they finished last year. So, first off, we're going to start off with Mercedes. Lewis Hamilton, 99th pole position. No one, I think he would have been like a candidate for pole. I don't think people would have just fully betted him to get on pole position from there, because they've got a lot of competition going on now with Red Bull, with the rules that effectively favouring higher rate cars, so it makes life a lot more difficult for Mercedes. But Hamilton through to Q3 on the mediums, put the fastest lap in. You can't really ask for any more than that. But then you look at the other side of the grid, and then Valtteri Bottas' situation, P8. I mean, that's almost like something you see from Red Bull last year, and it's just, it was a dire situation for Valtteri to be in. Like, he should not be qualifying P8 at the moment. Let's be realistic. When this is a guy who, throughout Saturdays, is known for giving Lewis Hamilton a pretty hard time. So, terrible qualifying really from Valtteri. I'm not sure what the issue was. I don't know whether he just wasn't happy with the car setup or whatever. But to be 4/10 off with a field this close was just a really bad qualifying for Valtteri. So, his only saving grace is that a majority of the field, apart from Vettel and Hamilton, they're going to be starting on the soft tyres. So, he's got options to leapfrog and undercut, but it's going to be one of those recovery drives for Valtteri. Bad on one side of the on the garage, great on the other. And now we're on to the Red Bulls at the moment, and this was exactly what they needed. One of the Mercedes drivers falters, both of them are up there. We haven't seen this since 2018, so well done Sergio Perez to out-qualify Max Verstappen, which I think is the first time that's happened since, I believe, Mexico in 2018 when Daniel Ricciardo got a pole position. Fantastic recovery from him after he got crashed into by Esteban Ocon, and after Bahrain's qualifying session, which was nowhere near convincing from his standards. So the only kind of downside that he's gone through on the soft tyre, whereas Max is on the mediums. Well, that does give Red Bull, they've got a variety of options available now to them to take the fight to Lewis Hamilton. Red Bull are sitting very, very well for that P1 spot in the world, and to see a second driver up there out qualifying Max Verstappen is very, very encouraging. I think for the whole debate, like, is it the car or is it the driver, we're starting to, that kind of hints more now that it is the driver. But I'm not going to criticise Albon and Gasly too much, because they were both very experienced at the time. They've got Sergio Perez, who is a very experienced driver and very, very good, actually better in the races than he is in qualifying. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what Red Bull deliver coming up to the qualifying session. So McLaren, what could have been? Who else was on the edge of their seat when Lando Norris went purple in the first 2 seconds? I was seriously hoping that the CEO of Team Quadrant gets it onto the on the front row pole position, but then the FIA, who I have no doubt are working with Codemasters, deleted his time for Go Nova beyond the track. It was such a shame, and that just really shows just how much Lando Norris has got in his pocket at the moment at McLaren. After 2 seasons with the team, he's really starting to come of age. Fantastic lap, really got the most out of the car. And Daniel Ricciardo, I think, given what happened with Lando, he could consider himself quite lucky that he managed to out-qualify him, but nevertheless, he was kind of fading away a little bit in Q2. He got into Q3. He really recovered to that time. So fair play to him. And it is P6 and 7 for McLaren, so they'll be hoping for a little bit more, but nevertheless, they've got a lot of pace in their hands going into the race. Now, Aston Martin. So, once again, I'm kind of hoping these guys were sort of expecting more. Lance Stroll, he got into Q3, so once again, it was another convincing performance from him, but I'm not quite confident the cars underneath him as well. So, he's really starting to take the lead in the sort of teammate battle against his more experienced teammate, Sebastian Vettel. While it was nowhere near as bad as Bahrain when he didn't even get through into Q2, this time he didn't even get into Q3, which is still very, very questionable. You'd expect someone of his caliber to be able to get up there and be able to outpace a teammate like Lance Stroll. I said in my last review, I seriously hope that this was a one-off. He should be up there in Q1 kind of outpacing his teammate. That's just the reputation that comes with being a four-time world champion, whether you like it or not, no matter what sort of the conditions were where he won those titles. So, not best qualifying for Vettel, fairly decent from Lance Stroll. They're just going to be hoping for a little bit more during the race. So, fingers crossed that is the case. So, moving on to Alpine, we have Fernando Alonso, who didn't have a particularly great Q2 session, let's be honest. Like, P15, it's like far from convincing. I generally expected him throughout the course of this season to really be outpacing Esteban Ocon, but then again, Ocon's already had a year with the team, so naturally he's going to be up there. But I did not expect Fernando Alonso to be 5 or 6 places down on his teammate. And Esteban Ocon, he recovered well enough from crashing into his old mate Sergio Perez to get up to Q3 and put himself quite high up on the grid. So, well done to him. Well done. So, moving down, we have Ferrari. This, like Mercedes, is another tale of two halves. You have Charles Leclerc, who done an absolutely fantastic job getting that car into P4 on the grid. He's just showing more and more that he can get the most out of that Ferrari car. As we know, the Ferrari's kind of geared towards him anyway, but Charles Leclerc is really over-delivering in that Ferrari car, so well done to him. Carlos Sainz, on the other hand, he's going to be gutted with only a P11 result. It was nowhere near what he needed at all, so I don't know, maybe it's just Carlos Sainz just hasn't quite gelled with the car yet. I mean, he is coming into a new team, so you need to give these guys time to fully gel in, but generally throughout, we just didn't quite look like he sort of, you know, had it under control. So, not particularly great, but at the moment, anything could happen tomorrow. So, he's got a free choice of tyres as well, so there's always the possibility that he could come back coming into that. So, looking on to AlphaTauri, we have Pierre Gasly P5, where we know how good Pierre Gasly around this track. So, he delivered exactly what we expected of him. So, fantastic qualifying from Pierre Gasly, and let's just hope that unlike Bahrain and the last race at Imola, frankly, that he doesn't take his front wing off, and hopefully the car manages to hold itself together. I'm expecting definitely a top 10 finish from him, possibly around P6 or P5. It just depends how much race pace the McLarens have got. And I can't remember what that pace was like during the practice sessions, but if I remember, it was pretty solid. Yuki Tsunoda, on the other hand, it's a very rookie mistake that everyone has made at some point during their Formula 1 career. So I'm not particularly worried about Yuki Tsunoda not making a comeback. I think he's going to be fine. There's plenty of pace in that AlphaTauri, and Tsunoda is a driver with quite a lot of potential. So if he can just recover and if he can make the most out of his race, there's plenty of pace within that AlphaTauri, and there's a lot of potential within Yuki Tsunoda. So if he can just make sure that he plays his race fine, stays out of trouble, just make sure he can collect the positions where he can, he should get his points finished, and that will be a brilliant result for him. A nice little comeback from crashing out in Q1. So moving on to Alfa Romeo. This was not the qualifying that they needed. After signs that they were more or less getting on top of things with their Ferrari engine, this was definitely not the qualifying that they needed. The fight is really going to be between themselves at this point. Kimi Raikkonen and Antonio Giovinazzi. The only sort of saving grace for them is that they managed to out-qualify both of the Haas cars, which the car is not particularly strong to drive in any case. So not really much else to say with The amount of times I get AlphaTauri and Alfa Romeo mixed up during one of these race reviews, I may even just keep a tally in this and just keep track throughout all these reviews. So moving on to the Haas cars at the moment. So Mick Schumacher, I think it was a more encouraging day for him just to only be about 1/10 away from the Alfa Romeo. So if Haas are really going to fight with anybody, it's going to be them. We kind of expecting Schumacher to be more or less on top of Nikita Mazepin anyway. I think that Mazepin's, or Mazepin as he's being called recently, I think his biggest achievement during this qualifying was the fact that he didn't spin it twice. If you saw FP1 yesterday and you saw all of the memes that came out about Nikita Mazepin, the amount of spins that he done, he was making Romain Grosjean look like Ayrton Senna. So it was a mild achievement from him, just not putting it into the corner. So, and it feels hard to say about that about a rookie, but I mean, given with Mazepin, his reputation kind of crumbled before he came into the sport. It's going to be another one of those character-building races for Haas, I think. But well done to Mick for getting that far, close behind to the Alfa Romeo. And Nikita Mazepin, he's just got to keep his head down and hopefully take something positive out of the weekend. So now looking on to Williams, this was a much more encouraging performance from them, much more. I mean, to get both cars through into Q2, that hasn't happened since Hungary last year. I'm just hoping that this time around, Williams do put a few points up on the scoreboard. So George Russell, we all know as Mr. Saturday, as he's often called. Once again, it was a brilliant comeback from him. After it looked like from Q1 that Latifi actually had the edge on him. So George Russell, once again, probably more than likely outperforming the Williams, but still getting up into P12, about just behind Carlos Sainz. So once again, fair play to him. And just behind him, 14th, we had Nicholas Latifi, which after the incident he had in FP3, it was a solid comeback from him to put it up into Q2. After the front wing, everything went off in his car. And I think the pace that they showed on the medium tyre, I think Russell was up at P10 up at this point. I think there's plenty of race pace to come from that Williams. So I think this is easily the best chance yet of points, just as long as Russell doesn't do a Grosjean and puts it in the wall again. But I have no doubt that he'll keep it together this time. He's definitely a man who learns from his mistakes. So I'm fairly confident he will go out there and do the job that he needs to. So there we have it. It's just a quick summary of the reactions for the race. So if you watched the qualifying, then be sure to let me know what you thought in the comment section below. And if you like the video, if you like the content, then be sure to like and subscribe for more of that, basically. And on top of Formula 1 Reacts videos, I also do the occasional gaming video. I currently race as part of a racing league for APS Racing. I'm on tomorrow night on Twitch at 7:30, so be sure to check that out if you're into Formula 1 gaming. So in the next video, I'll be doing a reaction vid for the qualifying for the race tomorrow night. So be sure to check that out if you like this video. I've been Spark, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.